Welcome to APUSH for 5, your shortcut to mastering the AP U.S. history exam. Let's jump into our midterm review, periods 1 through 4. If you can master these hard-level questions, you're well on your way to an A. Question 1. Stimulus, covering questions 1 through 3. The advocates for despotism have ever been the advocates for the new Constitution. It will annihilate the sovereignty of the states and swallow up all the powers of the people. Mercy Otis Warren, Observations on the New Constitution, 1788. There is no Declaration of Rights. The laws of the general government being paramount to those of the several states. The declarations of rights in the separate states are no security. George Mason. Objections to the Constitution, 1787. Question. The arguments in the excerpts above most directly reflect the views of which political faction in the ratification debates? A. Federalists who emphasize the inefficiency of state governments under the Articles. B. Anti-Federalists who believed liberty required small-scale republics and explicit limits on national authority. C. Jeffersonian Republicans opposing Hamilton's fiscal program. D. Radical Whigs seeking to restore monarchical prerogatives. The correct answer is B. Anti-Federalists who believed liberty required small-scale republics and explicit limits on national authority. Warren and Mason embodied anti-Federalist politics and power, fears that consolidated power threatened the people's sovereignty. Their language of virtue and vigilance shaped a national identity, American and national identity, centered on local autonomy and rights consciousness. Question 2. Stimulus. See image. Question. Which outcome most directly addressed the specific concern raised by Mason? A. Ratification of the Constitution, accompanied by the addition of the first 10 amendments guaranteeing individual liberties. B. The compromise creating equal representation of states in the Senate. C. Judicial review established in Marbury versus Madison to restrain Congress. D. The rise of sectional parties contesting tariff and banking policy. The correct answer is A. Ratification of the Constitution, accompanied by the addition of the first 10 amendments, guaranteeing individual liberties. Mason's insistence on a rights guarantee compelled the adoption of the Bill of Rights, limiting federal reach, politics and power, and enshrining civic virtue within the political culture and society. Question 3. Stimulus. See image. Question. Warren's warning that the new government might swallow up all the powers of the people most directly engages which broader Republican debate? A. Whether foreign alliances would undermine national virtue. B. Whether the Constitution should protect property over equality. C. Whether monarchic checks were necessary to stabilize democracy. D. Whether liberty could survive within a large, consolidated republic without degenerating into tyranny. The correct answer is D. Whether liberty could survive within a large, consolidated republic without degenerating into tyranny. Her skepticism reflected classical Republican fears that distance and scale erode virtue. The debate over the viability of an extended republic became foundational to defining American identity, American and national identity, and theories of governance, politics, and power. Question 4. Stimulus. Covering questions 4 through 6. Alexis de Tocqueville, Democracy in America, 1835. The position of the Americans is therefore quite exceptional, and it may be believed that no democratic people will ever be placed in a similar one. Their social condition is eminently democratic. Their laws, their manners, their opinions, everything about them seems to be singularly democratic. Ralph Waldo Emerson, Self-Reliance, 1841. Whoso would be a man must be a nonconformist. Nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of your own mind. Question. Together, the excerpts above most directly express which characteristic of 19th century American thought? A. The belief that democracy would inevitably undermine moral order and social cohesion. B. The view that republican virtue required subordination of individual interests to community institutions. C. The conviction that democracy's strength derived from the moral autonomy and civic equality of individuals. D. The argument that national greatness depended on European models of aristocratic refinement. The correct answer is C. The conviction that democracy's strength derived from the moral autonomy and civic equality of individuals. Both writers defined American democracy as an experiment in individual autonomy joined with civic equality. Tocqueville saw social equality as the engine of national distinctiveness, while Emerson transformed that ideal into a moral doctrine of self-reliance. Together, they reflect a national identity, American and national identity, grounded in freedom of conscience and the elevation of individual moral agency within a democratic culture and society. Question 5. Stimulus. See image. Question. Emerson's assertion that nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of your own mind most directly challenged which prevailing trend in antebellum society? A. The conformity produced by industrial capitalism, partisan politics, and evangelical orthodoxy. B. The emphasis on moral restraint within the emerging market economy of the North. C. The romantic nationalism spreading among Europe's revolutionary movements. D. The growing sectional solidarity in defense of states' rights across the South. The correct answer is A. The conformity produced by industrial capitalism, partisan politics, and evangelical orthodoxy. Emerson's transcendentalism critiqued how industrial and religious conformity dulled moral independence. By rejecting the pressures of commerce, party loyalty, and revivalist discipline, he redefined freedom as inner self-determination. His vision contrasts with the period's drive toward economic coordination and denominational unity, showing tension between individual conscience, culture, and society, and the social order, social structures. Question 6. Stimulus. See image. Question. Tocqueville's reflections on America's eminently democratic condition most clearly foreshadowed which long-term transformation in U.S. national identity? A. The dominance of agrarian republicanism over industrial capitalism. B. The dissolution of civic virtue through unrestricted suffrage and mass participation. C. The fragmentation of the Union as democracy failed to bridge sectional divisions. D. The emergence of egalitarianism as a central national myth, despite persistent social inequality. The correct answer is D. The emergence of egalitarianism as a central national myth, despite persistent social inequality. Tocqueville recognized that the idea of equality, more than its full realization, would become America's defining creed. His insight foreshadowed the enduring tension between democratic ideals and inequality, a cornerstone of national identity, American and national identity, and political debate. His observations anticipated later reform movements and the cultural myth of equal opportunity that persisted into the modern era. Question 7. Stimulus. Covering questions 7 through 9. John L. O'Sullivan, Annexation, 1845. Our manifest destiny is to overspread the continent allotted by Providence for the free development of our yearly multiplying millions. Henry David Thoreau, Civil Disobedience, 1849. Under a government which imprisons any unjustly, the true place for a just man is also a prison. Question. The excerpts most directly illustrate a fundamental divide in antebellum American thought over which issue? A. Whether the United States should emulate British imperial systems to strengthen its global position. B. Whether sectional compromise or political union was the best means of resolving slavery's expansion? C. Whether national expansion embodied the fulfillment or the betrayal of American democratic ideals? D. Whether rapid industrial growth would erode traditional Republican virtue and agrarian values? The correct answer is C. Whether national expansion embodied the fulfillment or the betrayal of American democratic ideals. O'Sullivan's Manifest Destiny framed expansion as divine and democratic progress, while Thoreau's Civil Disobedience denounced state power complicit in injustice, especially slavery and war. Their opposition reveals tension within national identity, American and national identity, between civic mission and moral conscience, and highlights the cultural split, culture and society, between material progress and ethical integrity. Question 8. Stimulus. See image. Question. O'Sullivan's claim that America was allotted by Providence most directly reflects which intellectual and cultural trend of the mid-19th century? A. The secular rejection of divine authority in favor of Enlightenment rationalism. B. The fusion of nationalism and religious providentialism in justifying territorial expansion. C. The fear that westward expansion would corrupt Republican virtue and civic equality. D. The evangelical critique of industrialization as a moral failure. The correct answer is B. The fusion of nationalism and religious providentialism in justifying territorial expansion. O'Sullivan's use of divine language reflected the era's religious nationalism, culture, and society, and the belief that America's westward expansion fulfilled a providential duty to spread liberty and civilization. This ideology projected national purpose outward, shaping foreign relations and continental conquest, America and the world. Question 9. Stimulus. See image. Question. Thoreau's argument most clearly challenges which assumption implicit in O'Sullivan's doctrine? A. That obedience to the state was a moral duty even when the state acted unjustly. B. That territorial growth was essential to preserving economic independence. C. That national power guaranteed global peace and moral leadership. D. That popular sovereignty ensured moral consensus among citizens. The correct answer is A. That obedience to the state was a moral duty even when the state acted unjustly. While O'Sullivan sanctified national action, Thoreau placed conscience above law, rejecting complicity in immoral policies like slavery and the Mexican-American War. His stance redefined national identity, American and national identity, around moral integrity rather than expansion, grounding resistance in the culture and society, and ethical dimension of citizenship. Question 10. Stimulus. We are not foreigners. We have been recognized as a nation from the time of the first treaty. We ask for justice, not favor. Cherokee Memorial to Congress, 1830. It will place a dense and civilized population in large tracts of country now occupied by a few savage hunters. Andrew Jackson, Message on Indian Removal, 1830. Question. The dispute revealed in the excerpts most directly revolved around which enduring constitutional issue? A. The constitutional justification for nullification of federal tariffs by individual states. B. The legality of executive enforcement of Supreme Court decisions under the separation of powers. C. The balance between state and federal control of internal improvements. D. The extent of federal power to define and override native sovereignty within U.S. territorial expansion. The correct answer is D. The extent of federal power to define and override native sovereignty within U.S. territorial expansion. The Cherokee appealed to treaty recognition, while Jackson invoked expansionist nationalism. Their conflict exposed tensions over federal authority, politics and power, westward migration, migration and settlement, and racialized conceptions of citizenship within social hierarchies, social structures of the Jacksonian era. Thanks for watching A Push for 5. Let us know in the comments which questions you liked the most. If today's practice helped you, tap like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any future videos. And share this with a friend who's also aiming for that 5. If you want more hands-on learning or direct feedback, reach out directly. We'd love to help you take your prep to the next level. See you in the next video.